In the quiet village of Rosewood, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, lived an old woman named Agnes. Her silver hair shimmered like moonlight under the trees, and her eyes held the weight of 1,000 stories, some joyful, others filled with sorrow. But above all, they reflected an unyielding spirit, one that had weathered time itself. Agnes had lived in the same cottage for over 80 years. Her hands, now wrinkled and fragile, once worked tirelessly, sewing clothes for the villagers, growing vegetables in her garden, and knitting blankets for newborns. She had seen the seasons change countless times, each one leaving behind its mark, but none so deep as the loss of her beloved husband, Samuel, who had passed away many years ago. Despite the heartache that often weighed on her, Agnes' resilience was her constant companion. In the mornings, she would sit by the window, sipping her tea, watching the birds flit about the trees, and thinking of all the dreams she had yet to fulfill. Most people in Rosewood believed that Agnes, with her frail frame and quiet demeanor, had long since given up on life's adventures. But the truth was, she had never stopped dreaming. One crisp autumn morning, as the golden leaves danced in the wind, Agnes received a letter from her granddaughter, Emma, who lived in the city. The letter spoke of a grand art exhibition being held in a nearby town, one where local artists could showcase their work. Emma knew of her grandmother's lifelong passion for painting, something she had set aside after Samuel's death to care for the needs of others. The idea of returning to her art had been a fleeting thought in Agnes' mind for many years, but fear always held her back. She feared her work would no longer be good enough. The world had moved on, she reasoned, and she was too old to start again. But as the days passed, the thought of creating again lingered. Perhaps it was time to prove to herself that she still had a spark within her, even if the fire was faint. Days turned into weeks, and Agnes' hands began to brush against the canvas once more. At first, the strokes were shaky, the colors muted as if the paint resisted her touch. Yet, with every brushstroke, Agnes' heart grew lighter. The old woman rediscovered a part of herself she thought had been lost forever. An artist who had once filled the walls of her home with paintings of sunsets, mountains, and the life she had lived. But the path to reclaiming her art was not easy. Agnes encountered many struggles along the way. Her back would ache, her hands would tremble, and doubts would creep into her mind. "You are too old for this," she would tell herself. Who would want to see the work of an old woman? But Agnes refused to give in to those thoughts. She kept going, day by day, and with each passing moment, she grew stronger. Her paintings took on a life of their own, each stroke a testament to her perseverance, each color an expression of the memories she had carried for so long. The images she painted were not just pictures. They were stories of love, loss, and the beauty of never giving up. The day of the exhibition arrived, and Agnes, dressed in her finest attire, walked into the gallery with the pride of a young artist. The walls were adorned with the works of many talented individuals, but there, in the corner, stood Agnes' paintings, a collection of landscapes that seemed to capture the very soul of Rosewood. People stopped to admire them, some moved by the tenderness of the scenes, others struck by the depth of emotion in each piece. Agnes' art told a story of resilience, of an old woman who had never given up on herself or her dreams, even when the world told her it was time to let go. As the exhibition came to a close, Agnes stood before her work, surrounded by strangers who saw her not as an old woman but as an artist, someone whose spirit had not been broken by time. A young woman approached her, her eyes filled with admiration. "Your paintings, they remind me of my grandmother," she said softly. She, too, never gave up on her passions, even in her later years. "Your work is so full of life." Agnes smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had done it. She had proved to herself, and to the world, that age was no barrier to pursuing what was truly important. With quiet pride, she whispered to herself, "Never give up. Never." And in that moment, Agnes understood. Resilience wasn't about never falling. It was about always getting up, no matter how many times life tried to knock you down. Never give up on your dreams, just like Agnes. Share your own story of resilience in the comments below. Let's learn some words from this story. Resilience. Meaning, ability to recover. Example: her resilience inspired many. Fleeting. Meaning, short-lived. Example: a fleeting doubt passed. Tremble. Meaning, shake with fear. Example: her hands trembled. Perseverance. Meaning, steady effort. Example: her perseverance led her forward. Vivid. Meaning, clear and bright. Example: her paintings were vivid. Indomitable. Meaning, impossible to defeat. Example: her indomitable spirit pushed her on. Despair. Meaning, complete hopelessness. Example: she felt brief despair. Tenacity. Meaning, strong determination. Example: her tenacity was unmatched. Exhilaration. Meaning, great excitement. Example: she felt exhilaration. Euphoria. Meaning, intense joy. Example: she felt euphoria from her success. Subscribe to Fairy Tale Spell for more stories that inspire growth, mindfulness, and self-discovery. Let's create a world where everyone learns to celebrate their own light.